What's up, guys? You want to know how I made this helmet? Stay tuned, watch this video, and you'll see step-by-step instructions on how to make one just like this. I'm Cody here at Power Prints. Here I've got the Crimson Thunder Ranger from Mystic Force. This is the front half of the helmet. Here we've got the back and just finished printing. I'm going to be going through the whole process of how to finish this and make it look screen accurate. So let's get into it. Since the front is already printed, I'm just going to show you the whole process, like every step of the way. This just finished, so I'm going to take this off the printer and I'm going to show you exactly why I hate glass beds on the Ender series, specifically the Ender 3 Max Neo. Okay, well, you see, the print is off of the bed, but you can kind of see here the supports and the rack that I used are still stuck to the bed. So I'm going to take some time to get that off and we'll get started. And of course, it came off first try. Now I'm just going to get into the whole process of deburring the leftover supports and getting rid of these strings. For the strings, I like to take as much off by hand as I possibly can, and it's hard to do. I just get the most of them off. I'll come back and I'll show you in a second what I do to get the last little bit. So now you see I've got the majority of the strings, the longer ones, pulled out of there. What I have here is a Benchmade knife, pocket knife. These work wonders. I see a lot of people using soldering irons and, deburring tools. However, tried and true, it works. So for that's what I'm going to be using to get all these extra little supports off. Back to the strings. Big ladder. You can get them at your local gas station for like $2, if that, if not less. And just lightly go over them, and they'll just shrink down the size. Now that I got most of those off, I'm going to take the scraper and then my knife and just dig at it. If you decide to use a knife, make sure you're careful. I've gotten myself several times, cut some deep gashes into my thumbs and my fingers, and it's not fun to deal with, especially on the bends of your fingers. Now that I've got both of these sides deburred, we're going to get into the sanding process. I'm going to be using XTC 3D, I'm sorry, this go around just to change it up a little bit. I usually use Bondo, but we'll talk about that in a later video. Also, this file I got from a user on Etsy. I can't think of his username at the moment. I'll probably put it in the description. It's very loose. Like I said, very loose fitting, on and off. It's held together by these little additions here on the back side of the helmet, and it doesn't have anything on the inside to clamp to or anything of that nature. So I'm going to see if I can't countersink some magnets in there. Who knows? We'll see. Now that I've got you guys caught up here, let's get to the sanding. I've got my orbital sander with 80 grit sandpaper. I'm going to use the orbital sander on the larger areas, the more surface area that's open, such as like the mouth. I'll probably have to get in there with some ripped up sandpaper as well, but mainly just like the big open areas, and specifically on the back I'm going to use the orbital sander because there's not really much here. There's no crevices or anything like that to really get into. What I'm going to do now is cut up some 80 grit sandpaper, go over these smaller areas, and get the bigger areas that I couldn't really get into really well without like potentially cutting a hole through the plastic. Once I'm done with that, we'll move on. One tip I would like to say, if you were going to be using an orbital sander or a detail sander, or any type of automated sander or electric sander, I should say, I recommend upping the amount of walls that you print, because these, these I should say, burn through this plastic pretty quickly. They, it'll just melt through it, and it becomes, I'm not gonna say unsalvageable, but it requires a lot of extra work to get it back to where it would have been had you just taken your time or added extra walls. So I always up my walls when I know it's gonna be, I'm gonna be using the electric sander, and I also don't take a lot of time in one area. I'll hit it. If it's not getting down to where I need it to, I'll move on and start sanding somewhere else, and then come back to this once it's cooled back down, just so I don't soften up the plastic or even put a hole in it. Now that I have the sanding complete, we're moving on to XTC 3D. I use this to fill in layer lines and add structural support. Now, usually I would opt into using Bondo, spot, and glazing putty, mixed either just straight or mixed 1-to-1 with acetone. I don't know if you can see it's not a very sturdy print. It's not strong even with the amount of infill I put in here, and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to use XTC 3D instead this time, because not only does it fill in these layer lines, but it also adds structure. I've already got my XTC 3D mixed up here. It's very similar to epoxy, so you want to do this in a outside preferably. If you're inside in a well-ventilated area with the window open, fan blowing, filtration system, and a mask. What I like to do is I go in and give very thin coats, let it get sticky, and then go in and do another coat. And you have to work fast with this stuff, because it does immediately start with a chemical reaction when you start mixing it. So it immediately starts hardening. So you have to do thin layers so they dry quickly. Let's get started. So I briefly mentioned that if you waited a little too long, the XTC 3 would harden, and it would make it really goopy and very difficult to get on evenly. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I had to actually get rid of that tub and go make a new one to finish the top. And it's actually going to cause a problem that I'm going to have to sand out later. But that's the cool thing about this. No matter how many times you do this, no matter how good you get, you're going to have problems. That's what I really enjoy about this. You're never going to be too good. And if you think you are, you're going to get humbled. So I'm going to leave those, the front and back of the helmet in here to dry. And once that's dry, we'll do a little bit of sanding to mitigate that problem that I caused with the XTC 3D. And after that, we'll hit it with some filler primer and see how good it looks. If it's not perfect, I doubt it will be, we'll get out the Bondo putty and fix it. What's up, guys? We're back. We're out here on my back porch. I've got my spray booth ready. I've sanded as much of the XTC 3D as I possibly could without damaging the PLA. And like I said, it got gloopy, so it became really, this is what it should look like. All over, consistency. However, that's what it looks like. So I'm just gonna hit it with some a couple coats of filler primer, and then after that, we're gonna take the Bondo spot and glazing putty and get to work. What I'm using, 2-in-1 filler and sander primer, sandable primer. It works well. Get it at Walmart. Now that I've got the first layer of filler primer on the helmet, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to go inside and let it dry. It can stay out here, but I'm going inside because it's 37 degrees and it's freezing. So I finally got the helmet to the point where I feel comfortable painting. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a quick black base coat down, and then we'll move on with the colors. I'll be using Rust-Oleum's high gloss black paint with paint and primer. Ultra coverage. Now that the black base coat has had time to dry, I'm going to come in with some Rust-Oleum Gloss Cranberry and give the same treatment. After that, we're going to throw a 2K clear on it, put some tape, mask off the areas that we're not going to be painting gold, and then move on. We'll give that a bit to dry, and after that, she should be ready for clear. The 2K is now cured, so I'm gonna go in, mask off everything that's gonna be this color, and get to painting gold. I'm gonna be using a Rust-Oleum metallic finish gold. It's the only gold that I'll use just because it works so well. Now there's a little accent mark here in the center of the mouthpiece of this helmet. You see here. I'm just gonna use a black paint pen and see how that works. Helmet is ready to rock and roll. We're gonna go ahead and put this visor in there and maybe add a couple of straps. Let's do this thing. So I've got these two pieces here cut. I'm gonna go ahead and place one of them on the top. So these will work as a hinge almost. And I'm gonna place these on the top and glue them down. Now I've never done this particular, I've never done the sides. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here and cut probably this much or so, just to keep it tight, but enough to be able to pull apart when you need to.
Standards for personhood include self-awareness, an ability to understand complex emotions, and a capacity for empathy. We're all in agreement that Ted is self-aware. What is your name? Ted Clubberland. As for complex emotions and the capacity for empathy, we all saw the distressing images of Ted agonizing over his fallen friend, John Bennett. In those images, Ted exhibits all of the remaining qualities of personhood. It's right there for anyone to see. And I believe that a just court must, by definition, grant basic human.
If you've watched this far, I just want to say thank you. It'd be awesome if you could leave a like, a comment, tell me what you want to see next. Share it, subscribe, whatever you want to do. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. I'm just here to give you guys some instructions. Hopefully you can make something cool like this. If you want to see some photos, I will post them over at my Instagram, Power Prints. It's the same as my tag on here. So thanks for watching. Come back.